Alright, well, here's today's project find. Craigslist special here. It's a Matrix by Ovation, model 1632, manufactured in the USA. So, I found out a little bit about this before going to pick it up, and this is one of the models that has the aluminum neck and aluminum fretboard, which you can actually see where it's worn away, whatever coating or finish they have on there. But it's a pretty nice guitar, and it actually plays. And I did tune it, but one of the first things that jumped out at me is the intonation is pretty awful. You can hear it already in that G, but that's way out. So, I'm not going to get too excited just yet. I'll take you for a little bit of a tour around. First, here's the back side. It does have a pickup in it, and I did check it, and it does work. There are no controls. There is just apparently a passive under-saddle transducer there, wired directly to that jack. And it works, and it makes sound. It's got Ovation tuners on it. Oh, okay. We got two mounting holes. I'm not sure if you can see that for each tuner. That's interesting. And you can also see that the headstock, the very tip of it, is gone. Came to me like that. Loose strap pin as well. Alright, so back to the headstock. You can see just a big old chunk of aluminum sticking right out of the end of that, and it's some kind of composite material that makes up the rest of the headstock, and probably I guess the neck as well. And you can just knock a piece off with your finger like that. So when I saw this, naturally I assumed that there was a wooden neck, at least as part of it, and I might be able to graft on a piece and recreate the tip of the headstock. But I'm not sure that's going to work now. So the nut looks pretty bad. It's not sitting in there particularly well. It's grooved very deeply and pretty wide as well. The frets actually look pretty good. And the bridge, now look at the bridge saddle. What have we done here? Alright, we've got, I guess we had a high action, so we've gotten in there and notched that saddle out pretty severely. There's a little bit of space under the back of the bridge. I'm not sure if you can see it there. It's not all the way across, but it does look like it's lifting. And we have plenty of cracks in this top all the way across. I did a quick flashlight test and couldn't really see anything that was allowing light all the way through to the inside of the body. So a lot of this may be in the finish. Again, I haven't checked the braces out and all of that to see if everything's intact yet, but if it is, I'll leave it. I'm not too worried about it. This has an interesting binding on it. These have a composite bowl for the back here, and then this binding, it's like one piece that wraps over the top and then around the side, and it sits proud both on the top and the side. So it's like a plastic bumper. It looks pretty nice, but it's like not much more than a bumper that goes all the way around the top. It's got sort of their typical rosette here. It looks like it's been re-glued maybe once or twice. So I'm going to dig around. I'm going to get the strings off of it here and see what else I can find about it, and then we'll be right back. Before I take the strings off, I just want to get a sense of how the neck is sitting on there, what the relief is like, and if there are any big surprises in it. So with my straight edge there, I see a bit of relief up to about the 10th fret, and then there's quite a bit of fall away here, so you almost would say a hump there. right at the joint to the body. You can see this thing will rock on there pretty well. Otherwise, you know, that I could live with. Otherwise, the neck, if it's adjustable, I don't know if there's adjustment on the inside or not, might still work. So we'll see. Alright, so a couple of things. There we go, I got the mirror inside. Let me get a light shining and see if it's even possible to get a shot of what's in there, which is the arrangement that makes up the pickup. It's probably a little too bright. Anyway, there appears to be a piece of wood spanning across the bracing and two little, I guess, transducer units. Something has to be a transducer in here, and a lot of fuzzy, dusty stuff going on in there, but that appears to be what's picking up the signal. There's no battery, so it's still passive, and there's no controls here anywhere on the guitar either, so that's strange. I guess if you know these guitars, you know what that is, but I don't. And the other thing is this saddle. Pull that out of there. Okay. And yeah, we already knew that wasn't in great shape to start with. That's what it looks like. And here we are at the slot, and it's got your typical shim over here, which I can pop out. And then it's also got a lot of something that doesn't look like it belongs in there. Paper or a soft wood, or some kind of something that's, I think, yeah, there you go. It's got to come out. It's either compressed cardboard or MDF, something that was in there to shim up that end of the saddle. So at this end we have two bolts. I'm not going to bother with the mirror thing, take my word for it. Two bolts holding the neck onto the neck block up there. Okay, and those are tight. I don't know if this is bonded to the top of the guitar, but I'm looking at it. I'm going to figure that out because I may not be keeping this neck, especially if there's no way to fix this. I can forgive a lot, but I'm not going to play that like that. Well, okay, so obviously I took the neck off. Wasn't a big deal, just the two bolts inside, like that. And, right, just fits in a channel there, bolts straight through. And the reason I did that and felt comfortable doing that, I'll get to in a minute, but here's the neck as it came off, and sure enough, aluminum. And then some kind of composite wood looking material makes up the rest of that. So I confess that I have hedged my bet a little bit, and I knew where to find an Ovation neck. It's been sitting in a local shop here for some time with too high a price on it, and I really had no use for it, but I kept that in the back of my mind, and now, well, I've gone and picked it up. So it's not the same neck as this guitar uses. It is the same scale and is in some respects, I think, close to being workable, but it's going to take a little bit of extra effort. I'm not going to try to salvage. By the way, this thing weighs, I haven't weighed it. I don't know, the thing weighs 7 or 8 pounds by itself maybe. It's a heavy bugger. So, and I'm also suspect now about this binding that's around here. If somebody just added that, if any of you guys know, did this come? Was this a thing back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s that you could buy and paste on your guitar? If you look here at the at the end here, there is binding along the edge of the top there, and it's possible that somebody came along and just glued that on, or it could be factory. I really don't know. I'm not going to bother taking it off unless I completely lose my mind and decide to refinish and repair this top. Like I said, I've looked again with a mirror and a flashlight, and I don't see any bare light coming through any of these cracks anywhere. So a good deal of it I can see is just in the finish. Some of this is probably into the wood, and you can see where dirt has gotten in there over the years. And you know, this is supposedly walnut, this bridge here. So let me tell you, my plans for this guitar are to see what's going to be involved in attaching the other neck. And right now I think, you know, I'm going to have to drill a hole for the truss rod, which the new neck would have here, and create a new block, because the neck that I have, I'll show you in a minute, is made for one of their shallow bodies, so it doesn't extend all the way down here, so I'd need to add a heel, which I could fabricate up and make possibly look half decent. I don't know. It's weird, that button down there. You know, the reason I picked this up for $55 is because I like to have a project around, and I really would like to have a nylon string acoustic. And this one, having a nut width of 1 11/16 here, was a good candidate for a new nut and nylon strings. If I do that, I don't have to worry too much about this little space here. I can get the corner of a piece of paper under there. It doesn't go all the way through, and it doesn't go all the way around, so I'm not going to bother with that. If it doesn't get the nylon strings, it's going to get silken steels, which is what I use on most of my acoustics now, because I got a good deal on a case of them. So that's the plan. Now, the other neck. Alright, okay. So this is the other neck. It's an actual Ovation neck. Has a nice V carve that was, I used to have an Elite, I think 1868, that had this same neck carve. It's a fairly pronounced V. I haven't checked yet to see if I can reuse the tuners, but I'll probably be able to make that work. But you can see, you know, some of the heel cap is already chewed away. And instead of the 2 bolts through, this has a single bolt, and it has this truss rod, and it also, I guess, you know, gets the tongue of the fretboard glued down to the top, which is normally the case. So I have to clean that up and do that. But just, you know, generally looking at it, I may have to make some shims to get the angle right, but already I can see that, you know, it's going to line up pretty well. It's just going to take some creativity. Alright? You have to use your imagination a little bit to get this securely on there and set at the right angle and whatnot, so that we don't have to have these, you know, notchy bridge saddles. By the way, this thing is nowhere near flat. You know, this isn't typically what you want. The material that was over here may have been a matchstick at one time, because this end is cut really low, right? And it just rocks around like mad. So we'll make a new one of those as well. Anyway, those are my thoughts at this point, and you know, I'm open to input. I think I can either use ball end nylon strings, or with this bridge I may be able to tie the strings on there. I would try that first, use some tie-on strings and see if that works for me. Alright, be back in a little bit.